Before we start, I want to ask you one question, and I want you to answer it in the comments right now. If Iran is firing 10 to 15 missiles at Israel every single day, and Israel cannot stop them all, at what point does this war reach your country? Drop your answer below. Because by the end of this video, that question will hit very differently. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, this channel is where we don't just tell you what happened, we tell you why it happened, what it means, and where it's going next. And today's story is one of the most important we've covered, because what happened in Israel in the last 1 hour is not just another missile alert, it is evidence that this war has entered a phase that no government is prepared to explain to you publicly. Let's get into it. Here is what we know as of right now, breaking in the last hour. Iran has fired another ballistic missile barrage at central Israel. This time, the missile carried a cluster warhead. It dispersed across multiple impact points, simultaneously hitting the densely populated cities of Bnei Brak, Ramat Gan, and Petah Tikva, all within the Tel Aviv metropolitan area. Cars are on fire. Residential buildings are damaged. A rescue worker was photographed carrying an infant from the impact site in Bnei Brak. A child was photographed looking on as first responders worked at the strike scene just meters from a residential neighborhood. According to Magen David Adom, Israel's emergency medical service, multiple people have been treated for injuries, including children. A 23-year-old man is in moderate condition. 6 children are among the wounded, and this is not wave 1 of the war. This is day 31, 31 consecutive days of missile strikes on Israeli cities. And today, right now, as you watch this, the sirens are still going off. But here is the detail that mainstream coverage keeps missing, and it is the detail that changes everything. When you hear the word interception, when a news anchor tells you that Israel's air defense successfully intercepted an incoming missile, your brain processes that as threat neutralized, problem solved, city safe. That understanding is dangerously incomplete. Here is what actually happens when Iran fires a cluster warhead missile at a population center. The missile launches. Israeli radar detects it. The air defense system fires an interceptor. And in many cases, the interceptor hits the main missile body. Interception confirmed. Success reported. But here is what the cameras don't show you. The cluster warhead is designed to open before interception. Before your interceptor reaches it, the outer shell has already split apart and dozens of smaller submunitions are already falling, unguided, toward the ground below. You successfully destroyed the delivery vehicle. The cargo has already been released. Those submunitions, each one a small explosive capable of killing anyone within its blast radius, fall across streets, rooftops, playgrounds, and parking lots. They land in gardens. They slide under cars. They wedge into the cracks of buildings, and some of them don't explode immediately. The Israeli military is currently investigating how one of these submunitions penetrated the reinforced wall of a residential safe room in Petah Tikva. That safe room was built to withstand conventional missile blasts. A cluster bomblet went through it anyway. Human Rights Watch confirmed just yesterday, March 30th, 2026, that Iran has now conducted at least 3 separate confirmed cluster munition attacks on Israeli population centers since the war began on February 28th. At least 4 Israeli civilians have been killed in these specific cluster strikes. 2 men in Yehud, an older couple in Ramat Gan found just outside their safe room, killed by fragmentation. Iran has not joined the 2008 Convention on Cluster Munitions. It is under no international legal obligation to stop using them, and it is not stopping. Now let's talk about pace, because this is where the deep analysis begins and where the mainstream narrative completely falls apart. On the first day of this war, February 28, 2026, Iran fired close to 100 ballistic missiles at Israel in a single day. Today, day 31, Iran is firing approximately 10 to 15 missiles per day. News anchors look at that number and say, Iran is weakening. Iran is running out. The campaign is working. That analysis is surface level, and here is why. Yes, Iran's daily launch rate has dropped by more than 90%. US and Israeli strikes have destroyed a significant portion of Iran's mobile missile launchers. That is real. That is documented. That is a genuine operational success. But here is what that number does not tell you. 10 to 15 missiles per day, every day indefinitely, is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of rationing. Iran still has a missile stockpile. Iran's military planners made a strategic decision, a decision that should alarm every analyst watching this conflict, to shift from mass barrage to sustained daily harassment at a pace they can maintain for months. Think about what that means operationally. At 10 to 15 missiles per day, Israel's air defense systems must remain on continuous alert status 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, indefinitely. Interceptors must be expended every single day. Operators cannot rest. Radar systems cannot cycle down. The entire defensive architecture must stay hot. And every day it stays hot, it costs money, enormous amounts of money. A single Arrow interceptor costs between $2 and $3 million. Every day, Israel is firing multiple interceptors to stop these 10 to 15 incoming missiles. The daily defensive expenditure just in interceptor costs runs into the tens of millions of dollars every single day for 31 consecutive days, while simultaneously conducting over 140 airstrikes on Iran in the last 24 hours alone, targeting ballistic missile launch sites, storage facilities, and production infrastructure across Tehran and western Iran. The financial mathematics of this conflict are not sustainable, and Iran's planners know it. Now let's zoom out, because global panic in the title of this video is not an exaggeration. Let me show you exactly what is happening beyond Israel's borders. Lebanon. Israel has expanded its ground operations in southern Lebanon. Netanyahu personally ordered the expansion yesterday, March 30th. 4 IDF soldiers were killed in a single clash with Hezbollah on March 30th, including Staff Sergeant Gilad Harel, 21 years old, from Modi'in. 3 journalists were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a press vehicle in southern Lebanon. 9 paramedics were killed in 5 separate attacks, more than Donlad. 2 million Lebanese civilians have been displaced from their homes. Yemen, the Houthis have re-entered the conflict. For the first time since the Gaza ceasefire was announced last October, Houthi rebels launched a ballistic missile at Israel this past Saturday. Israel is now facing missile attacks not just from Iran and Hezbollah, but from Yemen, Saudi Arabia. An Iranian strike injured 12 U.S. troops at Prince Sultan Air Base. 2 KC-135 aerial refueling aircraft, the planes that keep fighter jets in the air during long-range operations, suffered significant damage. Runways targeted. Fuel logistics disrupted. The Gulf, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE have all reported Iranian attacks on energy sites. Kuwait's oil production was cut. Qatar's LNG exports were suspended. Oil prices moved above $108 a barrel. Before this war began, Brent crude was near $70. That is more than a 50% increase in the price of oil in 31 days. Cyprus. An Iranian drone struck a runway at a British military base in Akrotiri. Cyprus marking the first direct Iranian attack on European territory in this conflict. The Chagos Islands. 2 ballistic missiles were reportedly launched at Diego Garcia, the remote U.S. military base in the Indian Ocean. Iran denied it. The U.S. confirmed the launches. No one has conclusively attributed them. This war is no longer contained to the Middle East. It has touched Europe. It has reached the Indian Ocean. It is disrupting global energy supplies. It is threatening every country in the Persian Gulf. And it has been going for 31 days with no end in sight. Let's talk about the human cost, because every number in this conflict represents a person. In Iran, preliminary figures suggest Donlad, 937 people killed by U.S. and Israeli strikes. That number includes military personnel, government officials, and civilians. The U.S. Pentagon used a precision strike missile previously untested in combat in an attack that struck a sports hall and an elementary school near a military compound in the city of Lamerd, killing at least 21 people. Local officials confirmed this to Iranian media. Visual evidence was examined by the New York Times. As of March 27th, Iran reports damage to at least 120 historical sites from U.S. and Israeli strikes. In Israel, at least 20 Israeli civilians have been killed by Iranian missile strikes since February 28th. The largest single incident was on March 1st, a ballistic missile strike on a residential neighborhood in Beit Shemesh that killed 9 civilians, including 3 children. U.S. military, 13 American service members confirmed killed in Iranian attacks across the region. An additional 6 crew members were killed when a U.S. refueling aircraft crashed in western Iraq, Lebanon. More than Donlad, 0 militants and civilians killed by late March. Gulf states, 26 additional deaths across Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. Total confirmed deaths across all parties, across all theaters in 31 days, approaching 3,000 people. And the conflict is not trending toward ceasefire. It is trending toward expansion. Here's the part that requires the most careful thinking, and the part that almost no mainstream outlet is addressing, honestly. Trump says peace talks are underway. Iran says there are no talks and calls the president deceitful. Iran rejected the U.S. 15-point peace plan. Iran insists that any ceasefire must include an end to the separate war in Lebanon, a condition that Israel has publicly refused. The Pentagon has requested $200 billion in supplemental war funding from Congress. Trump confirmed the request and called it a small price to pay. $200 billion supplemental on top of the existing defense budget for a war that was described at the outset as a focused operation to degrade Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities. The stated goals were regime change in Iran and elimination of its missile threat. 31 days in, Iran has a new Supreme Leader, Khamenei's son, selected after the assassination of Ali Khamenei on February 28th. The missiles are still flying. The regime has not collapsed. The Gulf is destabilized. Oil is at crisis-level prices, and the conflict has spread to Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, Cyprus, and beyond. The gap between what this war was supposed to accomplish and what it has actually produced is not a gap that can be closed with press conferences. And Iran's current strategy, 10 to 15 missiles per day, cluster warheads targeting civilian areas, sustained pressure across multiple fronts, is designed specifically to make that gap wider every single day. Because Iran does not need to win this war in the conventional sense. Iran needs to outlast it. Today, an infant was carried from a missile strike scene in Bnei Brak. Today, cars burned in Petah Tikva from cluster bomb submunitions that spread across a neighborhood without warning. Today, Israel launched over 140 airstrikes on Iran, and the missiles kept coming anyway. 31 days, approaching 3,000 dead, oil above $108, a new supreme leader in Tehran, no ceasefire, no off-ramp, no clean answer. And the question I asked you at the beginning of this video, if Iran is firing missiles at Israel every single day, and the war is already spreading to Lebanon, Yemen, the Gulf, Cyprus, and the Indian Ocean, at what point does this reach your country? That question is not hypothetical anymore. Drop your answer in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to understand what is actually happening, and stay with us because this war is not over.